An electric fence keeping me out of the next area. Come on. What's the worst that could happen? I'm only an aquatic life. Hey everybody, it's Chaga Conroy. I am a ghost now. You can see right through me. Welcome back to more Splatoon 2. Last time we got to become the hammer to mixed results. We went over the roller, and today, industrial toast into the octo oven. Our first major boss encounter. Let's get warm and toasty. I've always wanted to liquefy myself into some hot tea, and now I can by entering this kettle. 425 degrees of pain, the octo oven! I thought it was only 360 degrees of pain, but I'll take your word for it. He attacks you with toast. Unfortunately, I don't still have my yellow ink that I had a moment ago, so I can't say it's buttered toast. I was really hoping to get that. When it comes out and it's cooked, it looks horrifying as well as horrified. You spray up the walls, you shoot the tentacle. How would you like to have your appendages coated in a foreign liquid? Donut, stop! You need to keep going! Since when is Marie such a, oh, like she always was kind of a troll, and let's be honest, punstering is kind of trolling in and of itself. Also, yeah, the boss encounters are pretty sick, I gotta say that. You wouldn't expect that to be a high point for a multiplayer online shooter game, yet the bosses are well designed around all sorts of mechanics. They teach you a lot of things, and they're just really fun and feel big. I mean, they are big, so they better feel big. The face right in the camera. Sorry you had to see that. We can only go up in certain areas, this being one of them, as those vents are in the way, but we got it. Good, but don't start loafing around or things might go awry. Your pun per second ratio is incredible, Marie. Well, now we have armored toast. I guess armored bread, it is awfully fluffy looking. Keep away from you, gotta keep spraying the ground, keep my movement options open. He's gonna be spraying the ground with those showers now. Oh, he's sweeping, okay, so we gotta move across. Keeping your movement fluid by just jumping and shooting the ground repeatedly just to stay in motion, that's how you wanna do it. You see he's spraying a lot of area, leaving our movement options a little bit limited. Coming, coming out, you coming out? Ding! Nope. You're just kind of checking on them, seeing if they're ready to come out because you're impatient. I relate, that's the kind of cook that I am. Oh boy, away! Here we go! So now we're limited in how we can spray the toast. I'm spraying mint jelly on it. I don't really like mint jelly, actually. I'd much rather have the butter and the yellow. Ink! This guy's toast! What about his toast? You couldn't see it, but I collected the sunken scroll inside of the cutscene. You could hear it while the ink was on the screen. I didn't know you could do that. I was just trying to be efficient, I swear. Kapow! Didn't use my bombs at all. Might have been helpful, actually. Damaging the tentacle a little faster? Cool. Good work, Agent 4. I sure know how to pick 'em. Gotta hand it to the Octarians, though. I didn't expect them to have fully operational octo bosses at their disposal. I think it's time to call in the big guns. Let's see here. Sheldon, can you hear me? Over. I hear you loud and clear, Marie. Over. Oh man, this is so cool. Agent 4, I'm Sheldon from Ammo Knights, the only weapon shop in Inkopolis with over 542 million years of trusted service. That's right, stop by Ammo Knights in Inkopolis Square for all your weapon needs. Tell me Sheldon sent you. Marie told me everything. To think that my signature weapons can be of the new help to the new Squidbeak Splatoon, I'm honored. But I'm afraid I can't just let you treat my vast arsenal like an all-you-can-eat buffet. I do have a business to run, you know. So let's help each other out. I want you to help me test some new weapons I'm currently developing. All you have to do is use them in real-world conditions. If you do that for me, I'll be able to gather all sorts of amazing data. That data will help me get the approvals I need to make retail versions of the weapons. And once the retail versions are out, you can use them in Turf War battles. It's a real win-win, don't you think? Oh yeah, and... Okay, down boy. I think Agent 4 gets the point. Let's get back to work, Agent 4. Stay fresh. Oh, not Sunken Scroll, Sardinium, yes. We short out the Surge Protector in the living room. Oh, we can use the Ammonite's Enhancifier next to Cuttlefish Cabin. It is a top-of-the-line vending machine. That can enhance your weapons and add bombs to your arsenal. The Enhancifier doesn't take cash. It takes power eggs and Sardinium instead. Sure. I could stop by there and purchase some upgrades. We could get going on to the next world, but that ain't how we do things around here. Only one area of the adventure per day. So, we can increase our rate of fire, we can increase our ink capacity, or we can start purchasing bombs. I'm gonna start by buying the curling bomb. 2 Sardinium, 500 power eggs, let's do it. For now, we're gonna let old Joe here just kind of go about his day while we head up to Megapolis Square and check out the weapon of the day. Oh, you were wondering what the special topic for today is? It got a little weird, and it's better if we just kind of stay tuned until the end for that one. For now, let's get into the weapon, and strap yourself in because this one's a doozy. We're technically going over 6 different weapons today.
Some people just like to watch the world burn. They're called snipers. The all-around basic version of this jerk is the Splat Charger. This is a getting kills and supporting the team from the back kind of weapon. The main attack's power and range is determined by how long the shot is charged for. A full charge sports some of the highest range in the entire game, 160 damage, and takes just barely over 1 second to get. Any less of a charge and it cannot possibly score a one-hit kill at full health, hitting anywhere from 40 to 80 base damage. This seems like the most natural time to tell you that there are no headshots in Splatoon. A hit is a hit, and the data I'm telling you is constant. Every traditional charger is equipped with a laser aim assist that shows exactly where the shot would be if it finished at the current moment. I say would be because with such long reach, it takes a little time for the shot to reach its intended destination. Leading fire to where you think the shot should be is important, but even more important is not leading it so obviously that the enemy sees you taking aim and swims away. The aiming laser is visible to all players and gives away the sniper's position. On top of this curse, a maximum charge is very resource hungry, using 18% of the ink, meaning that it pays to hide an ink when it isn't worth telegraphing your position. The laser can't pass through solid objects, so aiming at the ground or readying a shot behind an object will show only the player where the laser would be if the object weren't in the way. Once the shot is lined up, peek out from behind and fire! Reminder that all Inklings are right-handed, so peeking out on the right side makes the attack come out quicker without exposing as much of the body. Jumping is another way to slide into a shot without having to adjust aim. A more advanced way to apply this knowledge is flick shots. This is aiming in a complete other direction and then flicking the aim right into the shot before they can even see it coming. Hard to do consistently, but can work. Well, all of this is just one way to play around this weapon's capabilities. The Splat Charger has a rare gift that barely any weapons have. In fact, including alternate kits, it's in the single digits how many can do this. The charge can be carried in squid form for 1 second. Moving certainly and quickly allows it to get into position and whip out attacks like they're nothing. Despite the gun's huge size, it's actually a middleweight weapon, meaning it has good movement stats to make this work. There are 2 downsides to using the swimming technique to be mindful of. 1, charges are slower in the air, so it's rewarded to have your feet planted upon resurface. 2, the ink tank will glow upon the tank reaching 100%, and this glow shines through even when swimming. So it isn't meant for charging headfirst with the mindset that it'll one-hit anyway. Moving on to the less straightforward uses of this weapon, just because it's oriented toward fighting doesn't mean it isn't good at turfing and map control. The long, thin lines of ink it makes are an excellent way of getting the whole team to battle stations right away at the start of a match. Not too bad for swimming out of harm's way either. Once in position, the Charger has a very important job to do: support. You're able to fight further from the action than anyone else, which does mean using the Great Vantage to pick off problems from far away, But possibly the most important thing to know is that before being a killing machine, you are everyone's lifeline. Sniper perches are perfect places to super jump to. When the enemy's gained a clear upper hand, it's better to swim away slightly to stay alive than to be out in the open as a charger. In concept, chargers aren't effective when they're outnumbered and need to attack rapidly. By nature, weapons in the rear spend a lot of time stationary in their ink waiting to act. This is an opportune time to check the map. Always look for information during these bits to see where your help is needed most or if somebody is trying to sneak up from behind. Or better yet, if the squids at the top of the screen are telegraphing a special that can affect you like a stingray or a booyah bomb. Now that the role is defined, let's talk about those shots and other ways to use them other than just one-hitting, because, it's not exactly easy to pull that off every time. There's something to be said for warning shots. If a shot misses an enemy and has a line of ink that's trapping them in a small area, it's useful for cutting off movement when you're ready to follow up for an easy shot. This way, they're easier to hit as they fumble to swim away, and it can turn a hard shot into an easy one. Typically speaking, if there's lots of enemy ink everywhere and their movement isn't limited in some way, they can dodge with ease. Know the maps well enough, and you'll know what they're about to do. Chargers are also good special suppression. It'll make any baller or inkjet think twice before activating when they know that a charger is around. Both are very vulnerable to snipes. Ink armor does block one-hit kills, but it levels out a little bit when a full snipe pushes it back and does some pierce damage. With that wound, it'll be a little while before they try again. Lastly, since I'm sure it's crossed everyone's mind that less than full charges might have at least some use, the minimum 40 damage is the quickest way to attack in desperation, and that will happen from time to time. Best not to rely on it, but it's something. More advantageous is that chargers are great revenge killers. As long as they're within range, a less than full charge can make a partially damaged foe who just beat one of your teammates easy pickings. As the ranks of players get higher, players spend less and less time at full health, meaning that 100% charges might not even be necessary to revenge kill, and it can just fire right after swimming into position. That does it for the main weapon, so its sub-weapon is the splatter scope? Before talking about any stinking sub-weapon, long-range chargers have two options for play, one with a scope and one without. The scope activates alongside a charge, going full first person at 100%. This is the only way to go into first person in all of Splatoon, and some players of other shooter games might find it easier to aim with. Alongside this is slightly higher range. While the long range might seem like it's a natural win right away, it's not longer by much. In return, however, it loses peripheral vision and cannot hold a charge while swimming. All around, inherently less mobile and less aware of its surroundings, but it does well at peeking around corners. I won't tell you what to like, I'll just tell you once that every Splat Charger kit offers a scoped option if that is preferred. Since it's the first time going over this, the Splat Charger and Splatter Scope both get increased damage from main power up. Though this does not mean that a less than full charge can one hit. The requirements for 100 damage have not changed. This is merely helpful for picking off a damaged foe in less time and more pierce damage to ink armor. Now for real, the sub-weapon is the Splat Bomb. This is immediate pressure. Should be used for manipulation to force movement out of whatever you're aiming at. A lot of enemies will hide behind a block just because they see a charger. This flushes them out. Unfortunately, using a sub-weapon cancels any currently held charge, so any sub-usage must come before or after the attack that's in conjunction with it. Use this to play the spacing game. It stops a rush dead in its tracks so that it's now possible to swim away, thus making good use of those movement stats from earlier. The key is to not play their game. A good charger is one that spaces itself out at the first sign of trouble. If it just so happens to land damage or cover them in ink in addition to the spacing, this enables an easy pickup. When attacking together, keep in mind that the bomb splash damage is 30, while a less than full charge caps at 80. It takes a bit of practice to take full advantage of that, and it might still be worth just waiting the extra fraction of a second to get full damage if you're not sure. It's a lot more reliable to treat the bomb as a spacing tool or as a manipulation tool than treating it as certain damage, only taking it as a nice bonus whenever you happen to get it. Another way to get a certain kill is using a warning shot to box in a target and then immediately throwing a bomb when they can't swim away right away. Overall, good synergy both ways, and it's nice to have something lethal that doesn't require a precision shot. Onto its special, the Stingray! Not a good panic button. This is an ink laser that hits for 108 damage per second through all solid objects and with unlimited range. When applying pressure, the laser is very narrow, but after 3 seconds of continuous fire becomes much, much wider. When about to open fire, all non-swimming enemy positions are revealed to the user through walls. The effect is essentially thermal ink on the whole enemy party. Use the enemy positions and knowledge of the map to know where to shoot and tell this information to teammates. Only the inky part of the laser paints unless you count the splattered guts everywhere. In total, the special lasts for a solid 7.75 seconds of base time. It sounds like an unstoppable force, and it nearly is, but here comes the catch. When firing, there is a huge 0.7 seconds of input delay, and it moves its aim very slowly. In fact, it gets even slower when the laser transitions into phase 2. Of course, with the charge-up time taking nearly half the duration, putting up with these negatives for continuous fire is rewarded more than just putting it away to aim again. To avoid being interrupted, try hiding behind something or super jumping back to spawn, which is freely allowed at any time. Keep in mind, though, that using a stingray inside spawn pushes the holder forward outside of the safe zone. No abusing that allowed. The last benefit to retreating before activating it is pivoting. With the origin point so far away, little movements translate into huge movements on the other end. This is a powerful special on flat stages or on levels with narrow corridors where it's likely to hit at least something each and every time. If not that, it's great at just keeping enemies from going a certain pathway for a sustained time. Stingrays might not seem very special in turf wars due to the objective not being centralized, but in ranked battles where objectives are telegraphed on screen, you can imagine this is an insanely good special. As much as I hate to say this, the Stingray is so dominant that it's a good counter to other Stingrays. If it looks like the enemy's going to get a good use of it, might as well save it and use it to shut down theirs. Its weaknesses are, as you would imagine, being rushed. It's so slow and prohibits any use of the main weapon, sub-weapon, or super jump. So other players who know a Stingray is locked in will do everything in their power to waste its time. If there was ever something that shuts down Stingrays, it's Inkjet. They move vertically out of harm's way when a Stingray is aiming at flat ground hoping to find targets there, and Inkjet shoot from the air at very long range, forcing the Ray to swim away. Missiles aren't quite as good at shutting them down, but it's still good to be aware of when the enemy team has them, as they'll naturally activate them as a response. The last weakness is the human mind. Make sure it's getting all the bang for its buck instead of just blindly replying with it when the situation doesn't allow the other team to score any real points. Since there's a first time for everything, Special Power-Up increases the duration of Stingray and mitigates the effect of Bomb Defense Up DX on weakening the tracking system before it shoots. It might not seem like much, but remember that its duration directly translates to free points in rank, so it might be worth it for that alone. The Splat Charger could not have found a more harmonic partner in the Stingray. Since the rifle likes being far away from the action and behind little boxes anyway, it's often already in prime position to let loose. Believe it or not, there is a reason to choose the Splat Charger on its own, because not every Stingray is paired with a long-reaching main weapon, contrary to what you would expect. Of course, it pays for it by being the most expensive Stingray in the game at 220 points. What more could you ask for? This is a much more active reimagining of the sniper class that would only be possible in the world of Splatoon. This particular kit is very oriented toward ranked battles and gatekeeping enemy objectives while being able to act as a stop button from anywhere else on the map. With this being such a different weapon from the others, it's time to go over some new abilities that I would recommend. On the logic that a long-range weapon dies less than other players, I want to recommend the weird ability of Respawn Punisher. In basic terms, this raises respawn time and special depletion on death for both the user of the ability and for victims splatted by the user. For reference, respawn time is normally 8.5 seconds with 50% of the special gauge lost. An enemy losing to Respawn Punisher will get a 9.2 second downtime and lose 65% of their special gauge. The user gets it worse at 9.6 seconds and 72.5%. Lastly, a user of Respawn Punisher losing to another user of Respawn Punisher will have the effect stack to 10.3 seconds and a whopping 87.5%. Respawn Punisher does nothing for assists. The holder must deliver the final blow to get the benefit. The ability's quick respawn and special saver reduce respawn penalties, but are not a counter to Respawn Punisher. it requires a ton of stacking to get out of the hole that it causes, so Respawn Punisher is good at suppressing these abilities. I would not call Respawn Punisher a fantastic ability, usage of it has declined, but this is one of the few weapons I might recommend it for. Another new ability is Tenacity. This automatically charges the special gauge when the player's team has fewer living players than the enemy team. It's 2.2 per second multiplied by the number of players fewer than the enemy team. Most Charger players will prefer a main slot of special charge up, but I thought I'd give this a mention in case you do like the sound of it. I would say this is one of the few weapons that benefits greatly from stacking a lot of special charging abilities. The last ability to get featured is Special Saver. I've already explained this, but want to give it attention here because Stingray at a spawn can be a good thing. Burn away all that lame kelp, it's time for the Firefin Splat Charger! It's got a first-time sub-weapon, the Splash Wall. Now this is a cool sub-weapon. Might even be my favorite one. In exchange for 60% of the ink tank, the user's team gets a selective permeable wall, where their players and shots may pass through it, but nah for the enemy team. Enemies touching it take 30 damage every half second. Watch the tank in the center. It goes down over time, or when taking lumps, until it disappears when empty. If it's never hit by an attack at all, it provides its services for 7 seconds every time. Another property is that enemy bombs detonate on contact with the wall, making it very weak against them due to their high damage. If the splash wall has a nemesis other than bombs, it's the Tent Umbrella. Drains the health like a leech. The explosions cannot penetrate the wall, but they will do damage to allies standing on the same side as the burst, or anyone showering underneath it. The last general property is that splash walls have a very long ink recovery lag, as indicated by the white in the ink tank after using it. This is to make it impossible to just turn in the 60 ink for an easy full reload behind it. Going into the uses, it affords, mistakes. It gives a lot of free hits before anything reaches through, enabling pushes forward in narrow spaces. It can be tossed behind a foe to stop an escape, forcing them to fight you. With long range, this can be very effective. For defensive options, it's good for stopping a rush that's been noticed from far away. I say far away because the deployment time after throwing it is long, so panic throws don't work very often. Something that it does a particularly good job stopping is ballers, since they can't do much to a splash wall without detonating, all while saving the lives of those that are behind the wall. More commonly, it's good when dealing with other snipers. It makes chargers irrelevant for a few seconds while they spend time breaking through. Or it just makes for a good edge in sniper versus sniper duels if you've got a wall and they don't. It can give a shield in direct fights, or can stop approaches coming from a given direction so you can focus on other things. Think of how often things would have been fine if your back just wasn't turned, and use it in those spots. It sounds like these tips are specific to the Splat Charger, but most every splash ball in the game is paired with something long range, so these tips are very general purpose. Beyond just using it as a shield, it's also useful in mind games. The instinct is to destroy it, and this is predictable. Throw it, expect them to focus on it, and approach from the side once they've revealed themselves. Showering under it can make this process quicker and allow swimming to the opposite side no matter what the direction they come from, but again, it's risky due to how bombs work against it. When it comes to ranked modes, the immediate idea that sounds brilliant is just throwing it in the tower's path in tower control. Unfortunately, they thought of this. The tower shreds the wall on contact. Something actually realistic is throwing it at a wall so it'll bounce off and then land back on the tower, giving cover and making it harder to take the tower over. With this being our first time going over splash walls, Sub Power-Up increases durability against attacks. This does not mean that it gets longer duration. It's still capped at 7 seconds if nothing comes into contact with it. It's strictly defense up. There isn't much to say about how the Firefin works with the splash wall that is not obvious from its basic workings. They are very useful depending on the map and mode, either as defense or as an enabler to buy time for a good shot, which is exactly what the Firefin Charger likes about it. When using the non-scope version, it can be very easy to swim forward with a shot and let loose. It's the first time for the special as well. We got the Suction Bomb Launcher. Bomb launchers are a new type of special in general that we'll be seeing a lot of. They allow spamming of the given bomb type for 6 seconds of base time. The Suction Bomb Launcher specifically allows for a maximum of 12 bombs to be thrown within its duration. It might look like a sub-weapon spam, but it isn't truly the same thing as using the normal version of the bomb. Holding R increases the range significantly over that of a normal bomb. Holding and then tapping causes 2 spaced-apart suction bombs to land at once, thus covering a lot of area and it being difficult to counter. Next, the bombs are thrown by the machine, not the Squid Kid, a surprisingly big distinction. For one, they're unaffected by equipment and there's no way to raise their stats in any capacity. For two, they don't contribute any special charge points, even if exploding after the special is concluded. For three, it's the only left-handed weapon in all of Splatoon, so keep that in mind when throwing them. And for four, because the machine's doing the throwing, it doesn't lock out the main weapon. Since this is about the launcher, let's skip over the basic workings of suction bombs and just talk about applications for the launcher itself. First off, suction bombs do 220 damage, and with the ability to spam, this is very much the anti-object special weapon. Going into mode-specific uses off of this, it's such an unreal amount of damage output against the Rainmaker shield whenever you just need to burst it. All bomb launchers should be activated at the last seconds of a turf war if no better use for it is there. Suction bomb launcher in particular is strong at splat zones where it can take back a zone in just one use. And the fact that there's suction bombs, which linger for 2 whole seconds before the enemy can even think about approaching again, makes for some easy points that can decide a close game when guarding an objective. You never forget your first grenade launcher, and with this being our first, the effective special power-up is increased duration. 3 subslots gives the potential for a 13th bomb. This is not as good as it sounds. For the Firefin Charger, the launcher is a great way to cover the ground, keep enemies away from a large area for a good period of time, and just generally get a push going. This kit works best at shredding objects and in splat zones thanks to the splash wall's added safety, and then using the special from its default high vantage point to take back the zone in just a few seconds flat. These aren't things that chargers can normally do. With the bomb's long range, this also plays into the chargers hanging in the back and not being left vulnerable during a long special that locks out the main weapon. Speaking of which, the launcher is a free reload, so might as well throw the wall and take the extra protection if you have it, since the wall's base time is longer than the launcher's. This is the most common type of bomb launcher, but the Firefin Charger is one of only 2 long-range weapons in the game to have it. As the downside, it's the most costly suction bomb launcher. This whole set lets the Firefin Charger duel other snipers well, get closer to the action, and use its special to turf the center of the map well. Out of the abilities you see, I want to give attention to ink recovery up because this does not mitigate ink recovery lag. I only have recommended it so that it reduces your downtime even if it does not affect that. The third and final kit is the Kensa Charger, which oddly doesn't follow the naming scheme. Why Kensa Charger and not Kensa Splat Charger when it's Firefin Splat Charger and Kensa Splat Roller? Well, hey, they get the angry comments for calling it the wrong name instead of me now. Hooray! Okay, that's enough of that. This one's a little strange, and not just due to the name, but being essentially a hybrid charger that can go between hanging in the back and pushing forward. Its sub-weapon is also a newbie, the Sprinkler. For 60% ink, it acts as a throwable sentry that sticks to any inbound solid object. This equates to free points in a turf war and more frequent specials. For the first half second after being placed, no ink is splattered, making it impossible to throw for cheap damage, since that's not the intended purpose. The droplets hit for 20 damage. Once that first second is over, it makes up for lost time by firing a droplet of ink 15 times per second for the first 5.5 seconds. For the next 16 seconds, the rotation slows down, but ink is created at the same speed. If it's still somehow standing after that, it will slow down even further and only produce an ink droplet every 1/6 of a second for the rest of its lifespan. What is the life expectancy? Sprinklers have 120 HP and are destroyed prematurely if the creator is splatted or when a second sprinkler is made by the same player. The ability Object Shredder counters sprinklers, making them break in 1 hit from any attack. Of course, with all freestanding objects, it's going to get shot at to prevent it from doing its job, and this can be predicted. So it works as bait if one is ready to flank. 120 HP Sans Object Shredder sounds like a decent shield, and I won't say it isn't, but it's best used when not in a firefight or as a way to cover the ground. At the start of every game, when ink isn't going toward any purpose other than getting to the center of the map, it might as well get thrown around spawn in a direction nobody is going. Particularly, Gobi Arena has a massive area around and behind spawn no one ever spends time inking, and this lets the Sprinkler pick up a lot of free points. To get the most mileage out of it, place it in higher spots as opposed to lower. Slightly wider spread, and it's more out of the way when people want to destroy it. This is another recon sub-weapon. Test what it can be realistically thrown onto. It might surprise you, and even be impossible for certain weapons to hit if it's stuck high enough. While sprinklers are good at turf wars, it cannot be used for last-second points because it doesn't stall out the timer like a bomb would. With this being our first time, sub power-up raises the duration of the sprinkler's first and second ink phases before it fully slows down. Not that great, since it already covers the ground pretty well. As for how this works with the Kensa Charger, yes, it does build up the special a lot quicker than most other chargers would be able to tap. But sprinklers have a reputation for being hard to use. It's so expensive to throw and just isn't as helpful as bombs, splash walls, or having better movement options from other sub-weapons. The only cooperation sprinklers get to have with the rest of their kit, other than acting as bait and more special points, is chip damage. This might land useful damage every now and then, and it is fixed at 30 while a less than full charge maxes out at 80, but otherwise, it's just going to feel like giving up having a sub-weapon in return for more frequent specials. Well, what do you know, getting back to it getting a special weapon more often, we have the Baller! This enables getaways when getting rushed at, which is pretty nice because the sub-weapon ain't letting you space out like the other two kits did. On the flip side, if it's time to make a push or just drop onto somebody's head from the sniper perch, it allows for a more offensive approach. You know, because it approaches. Well, if you're still here, I feel like this is a hard charger to kill when it has that special, but still faces stiff competition from how good the Splat Bomb and Stingray were. Jokes aside, snipers are usually in prime spots to drop onto heads with the Baller anyway. Since Baller does 55 splash damage, a near-empty charge will be sufficient enough to whack an enemy that just narrowly avoided taking a direct hit from the Baller. The two attack options this kit has are a lot more in sync than it would seem at first. The decision to play this largely comes down to whether it's worth it to give up spacing options with a sub-weapon in return for a Baller Charger combo. An ability that gets a big mention is Special Charge Up. This raises the number of special points awarded from the main weapon and the sprinkler. It's a far better buff than sub power-up.
Oh boy, I can't wait to find out where I'm gonna lose today. Sniper, I ain't. And you know what? Squid Sisters, you ain't. Sorry, I love these guys as much as the next person, but it's true. Okay, Marina, tell the fine people at home about the Temnodontosaurus. Wait, what? Your name is Kensa Splat Charger. You're just going through some stupid punk rebellious phase. Is his name Ken Zatterscope? I didn't think so. It's Kensa Splat Charger, not Kensa Charger. How dare you denounce your middle name and do your family a disservice like this? Oh, hi, didn't see you there. Sorry, we're actually not even using that weapon at all. I decided to go with the Kensa Charger with a bit of an interesting build, I guess. The sub power-up there's probably not going to be of too much help, but maybe on a longer range weapon like this, sure. Let's-a go! Schellendorf Institute is one of the most long-range favoring maps in the entire game, which means that it's gonna be extra— We have 3 chargers on our team, what? Which means it's gonna be extra embarrassing when I lose. Just getting that out there right now, getting my Johns out. I am not at all a charger player in the least. I don't play this weapon class. I am so sorry to all the sniping enthusiasts in the audience that were hoping to see a good showcase of their favorite weapon today, because you ain't getting it. So on this map, there is a dual layer design with an entirely uninkable glass upper layer in the middle. Oh, I actually clocked some damage on it. Okay, that was kind of good. That makes it remarkably difficult for people to catch you off guard when approaching you up at the top. Oh, drew it right over my head. Okay, that was kind of nice. I appreciate you being a kind enemy there. Need it. Just, come on. On! If you're asking what kind of weapons I usually like, it's nothing like this. Usually I'm into longer range shooters because I like long range, but not actually requiring the skill involved to land precise shots. I know, I'm one of those people, I'm horrible. You saw I couldn't even hit that guy right there. I'm just not good at it. Shots have to be aimed ahead of time and they travel to where they're going. And no, not like this, not like this, not like this, not like this, not like this. It's so frustrating. Everyone else makes it look so easy, but With me, I'm just like, why can't it just be click on the head and you're done? I don't know. I'd probably hate fighting these even more if that were the case. Let's be honest with ourselves. I don't want to complain of why can't they just make it like this? I am not that kind of person. Not a big. Ah! Can someone else do the sniping and I can just throw the bombs? I think that'd be a good idea. Maybe I can go with a friend. This weapon does move around a lot better than a lot of other sniping weapons, so let's try that. Going into the map a bit more, this would be a good map for this weapon if we were just in a rank you throwing games and not throwing hands, mister? Are you gonna do your job? Okay, he looks like he's doing it. Maybe he just had to put the controller down for a minute and be like, Mom, I can't pause during an online game. I was being really risky right there. You don't want to be walking around too much in that glass top, because like I said, you make yourself obvious while doing so. Anyway. If this was a ranked mode and the objectives were more centralized where I could just see where players were going and what they needed to focus on to score points and where they had to go, Stingray would be quite good. This is a long map and again, it's obvious which way people are going on it. There's a lot of ledges to roll bombs off of. It's kind of a shame that I'm not getting to play another mode with this. I don't want to play ranked battles too early as you don't unlock them for a while, so that's the main reason for that in case you were wondering. If I could just get a snipe, I would be so happy here. Okay, there's my prey. There's my prey. He's doing a bomb. He's doing a splash. Come on! I was like, wait, how did that kill me? The splashdown was far enough away that... if we win by 0.1%, it was me? As if. You can see where I sniped in the bottom middle. Don't tell me we had a disconnect or something. I wish one of the 3 snipers knew what they were doing. Okay, they got more kills than me, but 200 points. Wow. All right, I was the sniper who knew what they were doing, apparently. I at least knew that I was sucking. For half an hour, I only got Shellendorf Institute. The map's rotated out from under me. So at least now we have a 100% chance of playing on a different map, and I don't know which one it's gonna be. The one time ever in my life that I ever wanted to play Moray Towers, you freaking can't give it to me. Anchovy Games is one of the smallest maps in the game, which is not good for a weapon that likes outreaching things. It has a lot of shooty gimmicks like these sponge blocks, you'll see what I mean. But in addition to that are these CPU fans. Or I guess just computer fans, not necessarily CPU fans. Point is, they cause these platforms to go up and down. This place was quite infamous in the Wii U game as it had terrible frame rate and it just never seemed to work right. Oh, what? I didn't even know you could stand over. Oh, it's a retractable platform. Right, no one ever goes that way, so I never think of it, or at least I never go that way. Maybe that's my trouble. Let's do that route actually this time, just so I remember to show it. Over this way, yeah, so you can get delivered unto your foes. This is not a very wide berth to shoot from though, but that's kind of good so people can't shoot you in return. Doing the waiting game. So smaller maps generally favor shorter range weapons just because there's smaller areas that you're gonna be doing a lot of fighting in. It isn't to say that sniping weapons can't play on them. You can see that I definitely am taking advantage of my reach here. I just wouldn't be able to do that everywhere where things are a lot more cramped. Gonna go over this way. I don't see any action going on over there. I can do that. Sniper duel time. Who is the better sniper? The answer may surprise you. Main things that set it apart are the moving platforms and also that pathway I showed that has a lot of turf that might not get inked if no one goes that way. I want to contribute something, but I can't. It's just how this feels all the time. I just keep feeling like I have nothing I can really do. And I get it, snipers, they lay low. They usually sit up on an area like this and just don't really do anything until they can contribute something as not to make themselves obvious. But that ain't the kind of player I'm used to being. I'm used to moving around and feeling like I'm not doing enough if I'm not. I know that guy's over there, so I can just sweep this way. He's over there now, huh? Really didn't want to get hit by that. Splash down. Every time I think I'm gonna read his moment. Oh! I freaking do it! All I have to do is complain! That's the key to my power! Come on. Now I'm feeling actually like the kids are saying these days, much hype is what I am feeling right now. Going over there, you Sniper seems like he's just kind of planted his feet in over there. Or he's up there now. That guy didn't see me at all. I should have just shot him. That would have been way better. Frick, 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 frick. I'm out of ink, I'm out of ink, I'm out of ink. Oh my god! I shot him point blank! I actually won the sniper duel! In the most unconventional way possible by playing it like a shooter. There's a guy over there. There's a couple guys over there. Thought I could... Can I get a kill? Yes! I actually killed him! That wasn't so bad. It was just kind of fun, I guess. There's no... Wow, did we ever suck? We didn't win, but I at least was pulling my weight some of the time. In the second half, which is all that really matters in Turf Wars, as we've said many, many times. 3 kills, 2 specials. It's not horrible. I did better than the heavy Splatling on the team, which is kind of surprising. I feel like the heavy Splatling is a way more accessible sniping weapon. And that's that. So about the thing that I wanted to talk to you about. Now that we've made pretty decent headway into the story and taken out a boss, let's catch up with Marie. About 9 months have passed since the final Splatfest. Twilight lowers its curtain on Inkopolis. Neon signs paint the dusk in brilliant shades of green and pink. The Squid Sisters dance on as though driven by the inkling love of battling for turf. Memories such as these linger, vividly etched in my mind, but feel too like remnants of a long-forgotten past. It happened the night the final Splatfest came to an end. The showdown of Kelly versus Marie ended in victory for Marie, but there was no ill will between the two. The girls left the studio arm in arm, smiling and laughing as they always had. The bond between them would continue, unbroken, for years to come. Or, so it seemed at the time. The final Splatfest rocketed the Squid Sisters to new heights of popularity. Callie and Marie went from Mirankopolis idols to the biggest stars in Inkling society, seemingly overnight. Their days became filled, from dawn to dusk, with the duties of this newfound fame. Callie and Marie still lived in the first apartment they had rented upon moving to Inkopolis. It had all happened naturally when they'd first arrived. Being roommates made adjusting to city life easier, and besides, the two had been inseparable since they were young. But even after their finances had stabilized and they'd gotten used to the bustle of Inkopolis, they never gave a thought to living apart. They were always together, both at work and at play. After releasing their first solo recordings, though, their work began to take them down separate paths more frequently. Callie, true to her outgoing nature, began to make guest appearances on variety shows. Filming would often continue late into the night, and many days she didn't return home at all. Marie received critical praise for her recording of Tide Goes Out, and became a frequent guest on music shows, in addition to performing live concerts on her own. Up to this point, whether heading out for the day or coming home at night, the two had always been together. Now, though, their different schedules meant they didn't see each other as often, even on their days off. They spent more and more time apart with each passing day.